Hello everybody and welcome back to VUDivulged. I'm Anthony Blakowski, the General Manager, and today we have another distinguished speaker for you guys. Captain Russell Feuquay is the Captain and Hazmat Director for the Fire Department in Terre Haute, Indiana. During his presentation, he talks about his experience in helping those affected by national disasters and how fire departments across the country can come together and work as one unit in the aftermath of a natural disaster. I hope you enjoy his presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Russell Feuquay. He is a hazardous materials specialist at the State Fire Marshal's Office. He's going to be talking to you today about what he does as his job, so I hope that you all give him your undivided attention and enjoy his presentation. Thank you.
First off, I'd like to thank you all for having me come down here. I just started my job at the Fire Marshal's Office. I've been with them for a year now. Right before that, I did 30 years on the City of Terre Haute Fire Department. I retired there as, I was a captain at Station 9 on B shift, and I was also the hazardous materials director there for 14 years towards the end of my career. I just took a job with the Fire Marshal's Office here last September. Trust me, I like the hours better. I like the job better. 30 years in the fire service is, well, it's hard on the body. It just is. But you guys will find that out soon enough. I would like to congratulate all of you on having the aspiration to join the best job in the world. Whether it's fire department, EMS, law enforcement, or just Homeland Security, emergency management, you will have no better feeling at the end of the day than being in the emergency response, emergency management field. It's one of the few jobs that a lot of people can say, I like going to work every day. Sometimes the hours are long, sometimes the hours are boring, sometimes there's a lot of work to be done, but at the end of the day, you really have a sense of accomplishment knowing that you made somebody's life a little bit better in some way. I came on the Terre Haute Fire Department December 28th of 1992 and have spent the majority of my adult life in emergency response or emergency management in some way, shape, or form. When I first came on the fire department, there was no fire science degree. There was no division of Homeland Security. There was no school of fire science or public safety or anything like that. We learned the old-fashioned way. We had our nose in the book. We got our certifications. I came on as a basic EMT, which used to be a one-year, or no, not 1 year, it was a one-semester course back then. Now they have it down to like 2 weeks. I mean, I was worried about, how in the world am I going to remember all this stuff when I'm on a response? And, how am I really going to remember all this information? And really, when the time comes, everything comes back to you, okay? The recall will end up being there. But now they have the basic EMT course all the way down to like 2 weeks. My fire academy, so to speak, was me and 5 other guys who had been hired on. We were told to study we were studying it was IFSTA manuals at the time, so we could get our first and second class firefighter. That was back before they changed all the certification names and all that. We would be up in the training office. We were told that if a structure fire came in, we were allowed to leave the training office in our personal vehicles, and we would go to where the fire scene was. And our job, as being brand new, was picking up fire hose. We would watch, we would change air bottles, and we would pick up fire hose. We would be doing all the nice messy grunt work at the end of a fire. How many people do we have in fire science? Handful? Homeland Security? Wow. Law enforcement? Okay, all right. Anybody EMS? No? That's all right, nobody likes EMS anyway. But sadly to say though, well, EMS is probably about 90% of the job now. If you're looking at emergency response, EMS is about 90% of it. That is what's paying the bills for a lot of these fire departments and things like that. First off, I also want to tell you guys, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to stop me. You guys don't have to wait until the end and ask a question or whatever, because if I get going too fast or I end up skipping over something, you guys may forget what you wanted to ask me in the first place. So just put your hand up. I don't mind answering questions. We can do this as we go along. You asking questions may give me a little bit more to talk about, because I've never really talked for 45 minutes straight, although my mom and my brother and some of my friends may say otherwise, but we'll see what we can do here today. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. After my 30 years on the Terre Haute Fire Department, well, during my 30 years on the Terre Haute Fire Department, Governor Mitch Daniels decided to go to a regional concept inside the state of Indiana, to where we would, the state of Indiana was divided up into 10 different regions. We were over in Region 7, you guys are in Region 10. Each one of them was to, we went to classes, we developed our incident management teams, IMTs, and we worked really close with the state's incident management assistance team, or IMAT. Our sole purpose was to be an incident management team at sites of disaster. I've been to 2 tornadoes and I've been to 2 hurricanes during that time. Most recently, I was in the city of Sullivan right after they had their tornado. I first joined, when did I get in with incident management teams? I'm going to say right around 2002 was when I first got in with the incident management teams. It was something different, but it was a way that I could really expand my career, and I could take a different avenue that I had never done before. Firefighters, law enforcement, EMS work really well on incident management teams because we're excellent problem solvers. We are handed, problems at a moment's notice, and we're there to fix it. There's nobody else to fix it. That's why you're there. That's why they called you, because you're there to fix it. And that's what incident management teams do. We fix problems. Sometimes it's from a tornado, sometimes it's from hurricanes. I was on a team that managed a mega shelter right after Hurricane Michael down in Panama City, Florida, here in 2018. And that was a different assignment for us because it had always been food, shelter, recovery, different types of debris removal, and things like that had always been what we were tasked with. But on this assignment, we were tasked with running and emptying out a mega shelter, which had over 400 people who were displaced from Hurricane Michael. We went ahead and took the mission. We went down there. We were down there for 21 days. It actually went over Thanksgiving. And that's one of the things that you guys will get very used to in your chosen profession. You are essential 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's no weekends unless you take time off. There's no holidays. You'll work holidays, you'll work birthdays, you'll work anniversaries. You'll have opportunities to take time off, but as a younger lady or gentleman, you're not going to have the seniority, so you may or may not get the time off. And this is one of the things that your family will understand. Like my wife Elizabeth, who's over there for my moral support today. She's done this now for 23 years, 23 and a half, almost 24. And she can tell you everything about it. I was gone from my home for 24 hours every third day, unless I was on a deployment. Then it was a 14 to 21 day deployment. Now she takes off and, may go do something with her sister for a while down in Florida or something like that. I'm laying in my bed alone at home, and I tell her when she comes home, I don't know how you did it. Just sitting in the house with the cats, and it's a little bit harder on me just because I didn't have to do it. But spouses will learn, that this is just part of the job, and this is part of the sacrifice that your spouses make and your families make, and your children will make as well. Growing up, my father joined the Terre Haute Fire Department in 1974. I was 6 at the time, and I remember when my dad came home and said he was going to be a firefighter. I was laying on the floor in front of the TV watching cartoons or something, and he came home and said, "Hey, I got a new job as a firefighter now. I got hired." My dad gave 33 and a half years to the citizens of Terre Haute. He rose to he was an interim fire chief, has worn every hat there is on that job. He spent the majority of his time as a battalion chief or he spent the majority of his time as a battalion chief, or he was a captain otherwise. He always told me best years of his life on the fire department were spent in the firehouse. Not being a white shirt, not being up in the administration, being a chief or deputy chief or something like that, because all you end up with in the administration is a lot of problems. Trust me, it's a lot more fun being being one of the grunts in the mud, and you're out here getting things done. Okay, not sitting behind a desk. Maybe later on in your career, that might be something for you, but you don't want to move ahead too fast either. But I always enjoyed my time in the firehouse. It's family away from family. These are men and women that you spend a third of your life with in the firehouse. You have meals, you watch TV together, you're going on a lot of the same runs and things like that. And when you're spending that much time together, there can't help but be a bond there. And that's what a lot of good fire officers want. They want a good bond with their men and women inside the firehouse. Because when the radio goes off and it's time for rubber to meet the road, you need to have that teamwork. I need to know that he knows what his job is and he's going to do it. I don't have to tell him how to do it. I may tell him what I want done, but I'm not going to tell him how to do it. So that's one of the things you end up having, that camaraderie, that brotherhood and that sisterhood in the firehouse. And it's not just with your fire department. I'm talking about the 3 or 4 men and women that you spend 24 hours a day with inside the firehouse. That's where that real bond is. It's a lot tougher for law enforcement just because, sadly to say, the way things are, they're riding around in cars by themselves. Whether it's local law enforcement, sheriff, or state trooper, they're out by themselves. They interact with other officers when they all show up on the same call or something like that. But the firehouse is something special. You ask law enforcement, they think all we do is sit around, watch TV, eat, and play cards, maybe take a nap. That's not entirely false, but we do a lot more than that, and then the cops, they just don't have a lot of that camaraderie. They are brothers in blue, and I will never, ever, ever badmouth law enforcement. Law enforcement has our back more times than not. They're there when you need them to be, and they will go down for you, okay? The violent patients, the scenes that go bad, the call in the middle of the night that sounds like it's just an ordinary call and you walk in on a violent domestic call or something like that. You need law enforcement there right away. They will be there for you, all right? Because they're part of the brotherhood and the sisterhood also. Anybody have any questions so far? No? Man, you guys are making this too easy. Let's see. Trying to think of what else I can tell you. When I got involved with the incident management teams, that was a natural step in my career. I really wanted to serve the public. I'm sure as many of you would like to as well. I had a lot of satisfaction from doing my job on the Terre Haute Fire Department daily. But being on the incident management teams was really, really, really fulfilling, because you were there at when, I mean, people are at the lowest point in their life. Usually everything they've had is gone. Their whole life is just turned upside down. All they have is what they can pick up out of the yard, or, you know, off in another county somewhere, you know, because all this debris has been picked up and just chucked into the wind. My first deployment was in Clark County, Indiana, Henryville, in 2012, March of 2012. We had an early season tornado. The tornado was about a mile wide. The debris path was 20 miles long, went through 3 different counties. And that was when we got the phone call. Hey, they're going to spin up Task Force 7 with an IMT. You know, who's able to go? So we went. Me and 6 other firefighters from Terre Haute Fire went down there. Excuse me. With a group of about 30 people from District 7 total. When we arrived, I had never seen anything like this. Has anybody seen the aftermath of an actual tornado firsthand? It's something. I mean, everything's just gone. Trees are snapped off 3-4 feet off the ground. They're just gone. Houses, everything. That was my first experience with a real disaster on that scale. I was used to house fires, wrecks, structural collapse, you know, things like that, you know, more isolated, smaller incidents. But to see something on that scale, I was just amazed. I mean, you'll never see anything else like it. And one of the things that was really amazing to me was how these individual communities really pull together in times of need. Another one of the things that really amazes me is how grateful the citizens are inside these communities that have just lost everything, how happy and grateful they are that someone is there to try and help them. That's one of the reasons why this is the greatest job in the world: emergency response, emergency management. I was supervising. I was a group supervisor over a NDOT work crew. NDOT work crew consisted of 2 triaxle dump trucks from NDOT and a front end loader, 20 trustees from the Indiana Department of Corrections, and some chainsaws. Their job was to chop up all this green debris and to have it disposed of. I was out there as a representative of the incident management team to oversee everything that was going on and to report back on the progress. Out of nowhere, I look over out of the corner of my eye and I see this guy who's pulling a wagon. This whole area has been devastated and gone. He's pulling a wagon and he comes up to me and he says, "Sir, would you like a bottle of water?" I said, "Well," I said, "No, actually," I said, "I really appreciate it, but that's for you. You have nothing, you know, you've just had everything. I really appreciate what you're doing, but we gave you that case of water for you and your family and things. But I appreciate you trying to give me a bottle of water." But they'll do that because they are that grateful. They'll take something that we just gave them and say, "No, here, you guys need to, you know, I would like for you to have it. I'd like for that other person over here, you know, to have it. They're worse off than what I am." But that's one of the things that really makes this job really fulfilling. And I mean, that really touched me. And I'm not going to lie to you. I came home from that first deployment down in Henryville, and after seeing that, because during your deployments and during these emergencies, you have to take the feelings and emotions and you push them down. They got to stay down here for now because I have to do my job. But you got to let them come up later. I came home from Henryville. We were gone, was it a week, 14 days, honey? Okay, 2 weeks, so about 14 days. I came home after 14 days, and after everything that I saw and everything that I experienced, I saw her face, and that was it. It all came up, and I bawled like a baby. And I'm just going to tell you, you need to get that out, okay? You need to get it out. My second deployment was to Hurricane Sandy later on that year. Had an early season tornado, so why wouldn't we have a late season hurricane? Okay, we had a late season hurricane that year. We got sent 3 incident management teams and a incident management assistance team from the state. We were all sent out to Long Beach, New York for Hurricane Sandy. There was 56 of us total. We had our own service and support. Everybody flew out except for Task Force 7 out of Terre Haute because we had a huge triaxle service and support trailer that was full of water, sleeping bags, MREs, all that good stuff. And we had a good service and support unit in our task force, and they were able to feed, water, shelter 56 of us during that disaster. That was a 2-week deployment, not counting travel time. Travel was extra on that. So we were 2 days travel out, we were 2 days travel back on that. So just about 2.5 weeks. That was, you know, I had already been to the Henryville tornado. How much different can this be? Superstorm Sandy really did a number on that whole region. We were sent to one of the barrier islands in Long Beach, New York, and the storm surge. When the storm surge pushed sand 100 yards up off the beaches and up onto the island. There was sand 3 feet deep, 100 yards into the island. It was really surreal. In fact, the whole culture up there, up in the whole Northeast and everything, contrary to popular belief, the citizens in the city of New York are fabulous people. They really are. Everybody thinks you have to be a horse's rear end to live up there, and that's not the case. They may talk a good game, but deep down, they are really appreciative that you're there. And then they will give you the shirt off their back to help you help them. Some of the best people I ever met were up there in the state of New York. And that was one of the other times that I came home. And, you know, I thought I had pretty much seen it all. But you guys see the power of what a hurricane can do. Having a Class 5 hurricane like that, it was really something to see. The people were great. They were really appreciative. You want to see teamwork, you go out and you get deployed on an incident management team. You get hooked up with that because you got 56 people. I've been on a team as small as 6, as large as 56. But, it doesn't matter. You guys all know the incident command system, the incident commander, the deputy, the safety, operations, planning, finance, all that stuff. But that's up here on the board. When you start plugging those boxes, when you start putting names in those boxes, that's when everything gets real. For Hurricane Sandy, I was a branch director for Hurricane Sandy. I was right below the deputy operations section chief, and I oversaw the city of Long Beach, and I oversaw my 2 counterparts in Atlantic Beach on one end of the island and Lido Point Lookout on the other end of the island. I was the go-between. If they had something that they needed, everything came through me, and then I reported it up to finance and logistics and all that. That was where I learned incident management teams, especially the operations section. That's where all the fun is, by the way, operations, not finance or logistics or anything. You want to be in operations, really. Because it's all about solving problems. They don't care how you do it, they just want you to do it. General George S. Patton, one of his quotes was, "Don't tell somebody how to do something, tell them what you want done and be surprised by their results." Okay, and that's what a lot of it comes down to. They don't have time to tell you, "I want you to do this, this, and this." They'll give you a mission, they'll give you an assignment for the day. At the end of the day, as long as you didn't break any laws, they just want it done, is what it is. And you learn to operate inside those boundaries. And you have to work with finance, okay? Don't go making deals and things outside of finance. That'll get you in trouble. But so you learn how to bend the rules, so to speak, without breaking them. But that's how things get done. And at the end of the day, you go back to your hotel, you go back to your tent and your cot and your sleeping bag, and you know that you changed somebody's life for the better. My third deployment was to Hurricane Michael, was Panama City. It was actually 2 weeks after Hurricane Michael. We didn't get deployed to the actual hurricane. The state of Florida was having a problem because they were shutting down their other smaller shelters up there in the Panhandle. So what they did was they decided to consolidate all these shelters, about 400 people, into one mega shelter. And they called the state of Indiana because we have some friends down there. All those Gulf states, especially Florida, they love the Midwest because we don't get affected by hurricanes. So when they need teams, they'll put out what's called an EMAC request. Don't ask me what it stands for, but they'll put out what's called an EMAC request. And the State Emergency Operations Center will pick up that EMAC request, and they will reply if, it'll say we need a Type 3 IMT, Incident Management Team, and support equipment. So the state EOC will pull that, and they'll get in touch with Florida, and they'll go, "Okay, Florida, what do you need? You need a Type 3 IMT. How many positions do you need filled, for this? What's their mission? What do you need them to do? Okay, you want them to bring their own command unit? You want them to be self-sufficient? Are you getting them hotel rooms? Do you have some place to lodge them? Do they have workspace? You will need workspace because you'll be on your laptop constantly during that, looking for workspace." How are we on time?
You're doing just fine.
Okay. Please nod at me, go like this or something if I'm running out of time. Once we get the EMAC request, we send them a estimate on how much it's going to cost them. Everybody's hourly rate. If they want to have the command vehicle, that's like $2,000 a day or something like that. The more we have to provide for ourselves, the bigger bill the state of Indiana will send them when all this is over with. So a lot of them like us to be a little bit more self-sufficient. So they sent us down to, it was actually nice when we went to Michael. They were already well into the recovery phase of it. All the debris, most of the debris is gone. Everything is in the aftermath, but we have 400 people who have no place to go. This is also when we found out that the homeless take advantage of hurricanes because now they went from living on the street to being in a Red Cross shelter with 3 hot meals, clothing, everything is given to them. I'm not bad-mouthing the homeless, not by any means. I don't know what their circumstances are. But you have to try. One of our missions was, they're a part of this shelter. We have to get them moved out and back into their normal, like everybody else. Well, their normal is being homeless. So that was a really difficult mission. I was the Deputy Operations Section Chief on this deployment. So I had a lot of interaction with them. Come to find out, we found out that we could, they were more ready to leave the shelter. Once we hit a certain date, everybody was going to be out of the shelter because the shelter was going to close. So that was something that we could use. Listen, we will give you a tent, we'll give you food, We'll give you water. We'll give you a wagon to pull it, everything in. But the longer you wait, the fewer supplies we have to be able to give you. So, at the end, we were able to get down to our target number, which was under 100 people in 21 days. The downfall on that whole deployment was we left out thinking, because somebody made a mistake when they wrote up the EMAC request, or Indiana made a mistake when they read it and typed up the mission for us, we thought we were coming home on November 21st. No, that was not the case. It was a 21-day deployment was what it should have said, which took us well past Thanksgiving. So we had 8 of us down in the Panama City, Florida, and we just got we're already there and we're doing the job, and we just got the news broke to us that there was a misunderstanding, and the mission was supposed to go well past Thanksgiving. And they said, if due to the misunderstanding, if anybody wanted to come home, that this, Florida would fly us back. It was not going to be a problem, no hard feelings, anything like that, and they would try to get somebody else to replace us on short notice. Well, all 8 of us said, we're already here. Our families understand, because we were all seasoned veterans of the incident management team. So it wasn't young families and things like that. We were all a little bit older, seasoned veterans, I like to say. So when I called my wife, when I called Beth and said, honey, things have changed. They want us to stay over Thanksgiving, and I'm staying. She didn't like it, but she understood, because she knows what the job is. This is what the job is. Thanksgiving is a day. Christmas is a day. When you get together with your family and things like that, birthdays are just days. Not everybody, has to celebrate a birthday directly on their day. We're usually flexible. We have work, school, things like that. We do it on the weekends. But, it's just a day, and it's about getting together with your family. And your families will grow to understand this is part of the job, okay? This is what mom, dad have signed up for, and this is what they do. And when the call goes out, they understand. The call needs to be met. So we found out that we were staying over Thanksgiving. Everybody said, no, we're not going back. We're already here. Our families understand. Let's do the job. A lady in Panama, who lived in Gainesville, Florida, found out about this. Found out that the team from Indiana was down here, had to stay through Thanksgiving. She called and told us, or she ended up getting a hold of us, and she said, hey, I want to bring you guys Thanksgiving dinner. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, thanks. We really appreciate it. But, we were busy working and everything. And honestly, she said she was in Gainesville, Florida. We didn't know if she was going to show up or not. So, we were going to have whatever they were having in the shelter for Thanksgiving dinner. And that was it. And this lady showed up, her and her friend. We had turkey, we had ham, we had sweet potatoes, we had mashed potatoes, we had noodles, we had desserts, we had more food than we knew what to do with. It was, but we took some tables, we pushed them together, we made, place settings and all this stuff, and we had our own Thanksgiving. I had my Thanksgiving of 2018 was with my other family. And I've had Thanksgiving with my family up here in Indiana when I got back. But to be able to do that for a lady that we had never met and just heard about and said, I want to do this for you guys. It was really touching. It was one of the best moments of my life, with being out here with incident management teams and being as a first responder. We don't always get a thank you. But when we do, it's, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And you'll know when it's really sincere. It's difficult when you're doing CPR on a family member and the family's standing there at their lowest point, and a week later, the family brings you by cookies, you know, and a card, or just a card, or just stops by and says, hey, you guys just did CPR on my dad. And, you know, sorry to say that he didn't make it, or we know that he didn't make it, but we just wanted to come by and say thank you for everything. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being willing to step up, be away from your families, and do this for the citizens of the community. My last deployment was the Sullivan County tornado that hit the city of Sullivan. Right before I went to the fire marshal's office, I was the task force commander for Task Force 7, Feuquay and the surrounding counties. So I know all the emergency managers up there. I know all the EMAs, I know everybody. They're really good friends of mine. We've spent a lot of time together. Sullivan was one of my counties, and Jimmy Pirtle is the emergency manager down there. You'll find if you're on an incident management team, or if you're an emergency manager and you have a disaster in your area, that if you call the state for help or you ask for help, they will send an incident management team from somewhere else in the state. Because your incident management people, for one, are probably taking care of their own families and their own properties. Two, there's that emotional investment that you have, because these people are, you know, are your friends. I knew Jimmy Pirtle. He was the emergency manager down in Sullivan County, and I got a phone call from the state fire marshal. I'd only been, let's see, that was April, so I had been at the state for 6 months, and Marshal Jones calls me at 1 o'clock in the morning. I knew that there was a bad storm that had gone through. I'd have been in bed for a couple hours, but the marshal calls me. He goes, Russ, he said Sullivan got hit. He said, it's bad. I need to have you down there. I'm on the way. Because I'm right there in Vigo, so I was about 45 minutes away. The marshal was coming out of Indianapolis, over around Pike Township. So he was going to be a good hour and a half away. I threw my clothes on, said, yes, sir. And I got on my way. I got in my truck, drove down Highway 41 to the Sullivan turnoff. And this was in the middle of the night. This was 1 o'clock in the morning. There's nothing. I mean, there's no light. I can't see anything. I see some flashing lights way up ahead, but I don't know what it is. So I'm driving through town, or on my way into town. I don't see any kind of debris or anything. I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is better than what we thought. Maybe, you know, I mean, maybe just the power's out. I mean, maybe that's the big thing. So I get a little bit closer, and I make my way to the Sullivan County Emergency Manager's office. And I walk in there, and there are all my friends from Task Force 7. They're already in there, and they're doing the job. They had already been in there for an hour trying to organize the rescue effort, because right after it happens, you're in rescue mode. You're not in recovery mode yet. You have to get through rescue mode. Every volunteer fire department, we didn't have to call them. Every volunteer fire department within 30 miles of the city of Sullivan was down there doing search and rescue through that neighborhood. I didn't even get to see the neighborhood until the sun came up. But it was different. It was different than Henryville. It reminded me a lot of Henryville because it was a similar tornado. But one of the reasons this was really different was I knew people down there. And that was that emotional attachment. The other members of Task Force 7 who got down there before I did, they know Jimmy, they know people down there. There's that emotional attachment. We started helping coordinate the rescue effort to transition over into the recovery part of it. With having done this for so many years, we know a lot of people in these communities. I needed a urban search and rescue team. We didn't have one, so I knew there was a structural collapse team down in Evansville. Was Chief Conley, Evansville Fire Department at the time. I knew that he had a structural collapse team down there. So I got a hold of the emergency manager down there. I can't think what his name is right off the top of my head. And I said, I'm letting you know that we need Chief Conley's, his structural collapse team. And we paired them up with some search and rescue dogs. And we went through and we cleared every single property in the debris field on that same day. Because once you get done with the rescue part, you get everybody accounted for, now we switch over to the recovery part. Long story short, there was a lot of devastation down there, including Jimmy Pirtle, the emergency manager. His own home got hit. His old home got hit. Now, the bad part to all this story, well, it's bad, but it ends up good, okay? It does have a happy ending to it. When all this happened, Jimmy was down in Florida. He was picking up a pickup truck down there. And he's on his way back. He gets a phone call from the National Weather Service in Indianapolis. Hey, Jimmy, there's a tornado right across the river over around Robinson. It's getting ready to cross over. We don't think it's going to last, though. You know, it tore up an airport over there, but we think everything's going to be okay. Next phone call he gets is the National Weather Service about 10 minutes later said, Jimmy, we're wrong. It's not, it went up and over the river, came back down again over by the power plant, and it's heading for the south edge of Sullivan City. Well, that's where Jimmy lives. Jimmy gets on the phone with his son. He's playing cards over at the Legion. Thank God it wasn't the VFW, because the VFW is not there anymore. He was playing cards at the Legion in one of the adjacent towns. He calls him, hey, you need to get back. You guys need to take shelter. You need to go get your mom. You need to take shelter. Oh, Dad, we've heard tornado warnings before. You guys had, tornado warnings. Phone goes off. It's all over the TV. Nothing happens. Well, guess what? Something happened. But he goes, nah, okay, Dad, sure. Hangs up with him. Then he gets on the phone with his wife, and he's talking to her, and she's like, the wind's picking up. He said, you need to get out of our house, and you need to get to their son's house, who was on the front of the property. You need to get to their house because they have a basement. She's trying to open the doors, and she goes, Jimmy, I can't open the doors. The wind's too strong. I can't open the door. I can't get out. So she grabs the dog, and she gets in the bathtub. And I have no idea how he was able to drive, because she is in the bathtub with the dog. She's covered up with a blanket, and they're saying goodbye. He's trying to drive back from Florida. How this is a man very experienced in emergency management, been on fire department, sheriff's department, has seen things that nobody should ever see. But now it's personal. Okay? His wife is telling him goodbye. And he's trying to get back to Indiana. So, everything ended up being okay. He lost cell phone contact with her because the cell phone towers were taken out. He was able to get a neighbor, to go over and check on her. She was in the debris, but they were able to get her out. She was not seriously injured, bumps and bruises, thank God. The house that, their son's house, who was on the front of the property that he wanted her to go to because it had a basement, was completely gone. No longer there, just disappeared. They had a foundation and a basement, and that was it. So, time-wise, wrap it up?
We're at 11:45.
11:40, boy, I didn't think I could do it, but my wife knew I could. Been married to her for 23 years, thank God. But that's just some of the things. You are looking at working on in the best job in the world. Okay, fire department, EMS, law enforcement, emergency management, Homeland Security. best job in the world. But, there are some, down points to it. Sometimes it's a toll on your body. Sometimes it's a toll on your mind, okay? The emotional toll on it. It's a toll on your family. But you need to understand every day that you have a mission, every day that something goes wrong, every day that you make a call, fire, police, EMS, tornado, hurricane, whatever, you go out and you do the very best job that you can. You do your training, you do what you know is right, and you do the best job that you can. It may not always go your way, but at the end of the day, know that you did your best, and after that, it's not up to you, okay? We have first responders that struggle with this on a daily basis. But you have to realize, at the end of the day, I did my best, and it's not up to me. You'll see things that nobody should ever see. Talk to your family, talk to your pastor, talk to your spouse, talk to your friends, talk to somebody. But don't go down that path of talking to a bottle. Don't go down the path of thinking drugs are going to make it better, all right? Because it doesn't. All it does is get you in a vicious cycle that is very, very difficult to get out of. Be able to realize everybody in this room really wants to do this job. That's why you guys signed up for this. But you also need to realize your own limitations. And sometimes you think this is a job I want to do, but sometimes you have to say, I don't think so. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I don't think I can do this. But anyway, I'm really getting the, you need to cut this off. Like I said, welcome to the best job in the world. I'm sure you guys are going to do just fine. This has been some of the most rewarding times of my life, and I hope that you guys, that they will be some of the best years of your life, and you're able to move forward in your chosen professions, and one day you'll be asked to come back here and stand up here, and you'll speak to a class just like this. Thank you.
A certificate of appreciation for coming and talking to our students today, so thank you very much.
Well,
he's going to take a picture real quick. And thank you again.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, yes, sir.
So, you're speaking about the deployments, all that. So, are most of the deployments that happen, like, go on, are they mainly, like, just overall, like, natural disaster?
Yes.
Kind of base?
Yeah. I haven't been on a earthquake yet, but we are very near a fault line, so that could happen in the near future. You never know. Hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that. Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot of natural disasters.
How far, like, would, like, states usually push out for aid from others? Like, you said Florida, New York.
Yeah, they will put out, like I said, the EMAC request basically goes into a database that all the other states monitor, and they'll look at it and go, oh, Florida just had this happen, New York just had this happen, they're requesting this, do we have the means to fill this need? And then they will get back to them, but all across the country. The worse it is, the farther out they reach. But they need to get outside of a certain zone. That's why they like the Midwest so much. Any others? I know everybody wants to go to lunch, and I don't blame you. Yes, sir.
Do you work with the Indiana FEMA task force much with what you do as incident command?
I work under, there's a huge group of agencies that operate under the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, and the State Fire Marshal's Office is one of those. And also is the Response and Recovery Division. So yes, that's where the incident management teams work out of, is the response and recovery under the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. And then they'll pluck people from other agencies like mine, like the Fire Marshal, who have experience, then they'll bring us in as well. Anybody else? All right, I think it's time for you guys to go eat. So I really appreciate your patience and your time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.